scientists! Have you ever taken a bite out of an apple expecting a sweet snack, only to discover a shockingly sour surprise? Chances are you've experienced an apple with a high amount of acidity. While we often use the word acidity to describe the taste of things, in chemistry, acidity is a useful property or measurable characteristic that can help us learn about and identify different chemicals around us. It can explain the taste of our favorite snack, help us understand why a particular substance might have a slippery feel, or even help scientists identify potentially harmful chemicals. Unfortunately, we can't measure a material's acidity just by looking at it, but we can test acidity levels using specialized tools. And during today's video, we'll be doing just that by making a special purple paper to reveal the chemical properties of some common kitchen items. To do this, we'll be preparing 2 pieces of paper that can tell us if a substance is an acid or a base. This paper takes at least 3 hours to dry, but it can also be made a couple days in advance if needed. To make your purple testing paper, you will need the following supplies: 2 pieces of paper, or a single sheet cut in half, scissors, a paintbrush or some Q-tips, a small cup of grape juice, and a plate or tray to paint on. Lastly, don't forget your science notebook and something to write with so you can keep track of your results. Once you have all of your supplies, we can get started. Lay out your pieces of paper onto the plate or tray you will be painting on. Use your paintbrush or a Q-tip to carefully start painting grape juice onto them. Make sure that there's a thick layer of grape juice on the paper for this activity to work best. 3 coats are usually enough to get the paper pretty well soaked. Once each piece of paper is covered in grape juice, you can set your plates or trays aside to dry for at least 3 hours. As you are waiting for your paper to dry, start thinking about what substances or materials you would like to test the acidity of. We recommend having at least 4 to 8 substances to test. Here are some examples of safe substances that will work well for this activity: vinegar, baking soda, dish soap, lemon juice, and water. Once your paper is dry, set one aside to use later, and cut the other into enough strips to test all your substances. Label each strip with a substance you will be testing. Now that our paper is ready, let's prepare our materials for testing. Pour a small amount of each testing material into a cup. Be sure to make note of what is in each cup. For substances like baking soda or dish soap, add enough water that you can dip part of a slip of paper into the mixture. Before we test, let's see if we can predict how acidic these materials are. While we can't look at a material to tell how acidic it is, we can use some other properties you might already know to help make a prediction. A substance that has high acidity is often called an acid. Safe acids you find at home are usually found in foods that taste sour. A substance that has low acidity is often called a base and usually feels slippery and works well for cleaning up messes. A substance that is somewhere between an acid and a base is called a neutral substance. Using these properties, make a prediction whether you think each substance in front of you is an acid, a base, or a neutral substance. You can record your predictions in your science notebook using a table like the one I have here. After you've made your predictions, you can start testing your different substances. Take each strip and dip it into the substance that it's labeled for. Record what color the strip turns when you dip it into the substance, and then use this key to figure out whether the substance is an acid, a base, or neutral. Now is a good time to pause the video while you test your substances and record your findings in your science notebook. So, did your predictions match your results? Did any of your results surprise you? We saw that you can use properties like taste or texture to make predictions about whether something is an acid or a base. But the only way to be sure is to use a tool called an indicator to measure the acidity. An indicator is a chemical that indicates or shows an invisible property of a material. The grape juice we used is an example of an indicator that reveals the acidity of a material by changing color. Now that we've found out that different substances will turn our purple indicator different colors, depending on whether the substance is an acid or a base, I have one final challenge for you. Let's see if we can use what we've learned to make a multicolored painting. Take out your remaining piece of paper and place it in the middle of your tray. You can use the color column in your table as a reference to show you what color paint each substance will be. For example, if I wanted to paint a pink cloud, I would use lemon juice to paint that shape onto my canvas. Continue painting different shapes with various substances to create a colorful masterpiece. Be careful to rinse your paintbrush in your water cup or switch Q-tips in between different paints so you don't accidentally mix your paints together. The color of the paper will continue to change a little as the paper dries, but you should still see a clear difference between your acids and your bases. I hope you've had fun exploring different properties of acids and bases today. Until next time, stay curious.